Hello, NASCAR world. Welcome into Raised Rowdy Racing. We got some exciting news and some new hosts joining the mix. I'm Ike Everard.
And I'm Ashlyn Register.
And we are excited to meet you all. So a little bit about what's going on here is, of course, yes, Dawson and Caleb are still involved, so don't worry, they're not going anywhere. But we just felt like mixing in some new voices and new hosts to keep the content rolling was the way to go. So we're obviously excited to have Dawson and Caleb with us when they can be, and Dawson's going to be on this episode too a little bit later. But to get things started here today,
but you're stuck with us now.
You're stuck with us.
You're
right
stuck
now.
with us now.
And it's two new hosts of the show. So a little bit about us, actually. We used to host a NASCAR radio show in college called Drivers Meeting. It was a lot of fun.
We did.
Some great information. We interviewed some drivers. We used to go cover the championship race out in Phoenix. And Ashlyn here has a little bit more to her NASCAR story as well. You want to tell them?
Yeah, so I actually worked for NASCAR after 3 weeks of graduating from ASU. So I graduated, moved straight to Charlotte, and I worked for the international department. So not a lot of people know what that means, but you're basically going to see what you see on TV here in the United States. And we took that and actually covered up all the sponsorships and then redistributed it to over about 100 different countries so everyone else could experience the NASCAR race as well. And so I produced that, and then I produced a little bit on the Pace Lap with Jessie Punch, if you guys know her dad. That's Doc Punch. And so have a little dabble in the NASCAR world itself, and then I still actually freelance for them too. So I love the sport, grew up loving the sport. So give me love, please.
Yeah, big time NASCAR
yes.
girl, Ashlyn Register.
Give me love, please.
If you ever want to know the inside stories, just hit her up. She might tell you a little bit about some of the drivers.
I'm not really on social media, but I can.
You can hit us up.
I'll check my DMs.
You can hit us up
I'll check my DMs.
on the Raised Rowdy Racing Instagram, and maybe she'll respond to some comments. So, yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's dive into it, Ash.
Okay.
It's a big week in NASCAR. We watched the race, obviously, last race before the championship. And some crazy drama. I think more drama than we've probably seen in a cutoff race ever.
Yeah.
I would say.
Other than the Ross Chastain, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
But I mean, that played into it. I think this is bigger because this has implications that could alter the sport as we know it, depending on, what happens with teams who are colluding with each other and the ways NASCAR deals with it. And we found out one of the ways that they're dealing with it today, actually. They penalized Ross Chastain's team, Bubba Wallace's team, and Austin Dillon's team. Not heavily, though. They did punish them for helping manipulate the outcome of the race, but all they did was take away the crew chief for next race, a crew member, and they fined them some money. So not a massive penalty when it comes to manufacturer orders and plans between teams. So a lot of people are saying we could see more of this in the future, of that race manipulation.
I think we already see it now, just not play into a big factor. And I think that if you look at it from a standpoint of different races and the different outcomes that it could, this was defining a championship for. This wasn't just a Pocono race in the middle of the season that, yes, does count because you do have to win and get in. But I think with the way that they were looking at it was these were the last two people that were getting in on points. And I think that if they were given that opportunity again, I think teams are going to do that no matter what NASCAR is willing to do. Because at the end of the day, they want to help that manufacturer. They want to help Chevys help Chevys. They want Fords to help Fords. And I don't think the manufacturers are going to come back and say, stop helping one another. The team owners may, but I don't think from a manufacturer standpoint, what are you going to say? No, don't help each other. Then what's the point of having different manufacturers out there and having teammates? Because at the end of the day, teammates are going to help teammates and manufacturers are going to help manufacturers.
For sure. And I don't think the manufacturers are the ones who are going to have the problem with it. But when it comes to being a fan of the sport and watching a race, and you start to see these things going on where, quite literally 2 Chevys are making a blockade behind William Byron so we can't fall back anymore, that seems like an issue just in terms of racing. I mean, as we start to see that, we're going to see these manufacturers starting to build feeder teams that can push their other teams' cars to victory, and it's going to start to create issues.
And I think that they need to look at that from a standpoint of only manufacturers and what they are telling their drivers at the end of the day.
For sure.
Because Bubba Wallace, if you listen to his radio, which they played, I would have never thought that they were trying to help. It sounded like he was blowing a tire, and then it looked like he was helping.
Well, they were a lot smarter about their assistance than the other
But
two.
that's what I'm saying is that these manufacturers are going to find loopholes at the end of the day. And I don't think that we're not going to see that anymore. I think just for the level that we are at right now, it was just a different playing field. And I think that if we look at it from another standpoint, this didn't happen last year.
No, it
This
didn't.
didn't happen 2 years ago.
We also didn't see. This is such a unique situation, though, in terms of how the points were, and in terms of William Byron losing spots and Bell not being able to gain one without a lap car.
And so I think with that, we have to think manufacturers are going to look at it by like circumstance by circumstance. I don't think this is going to come like a thing every race. We only see Chevys driving with Chevys, unless it's Talladega and Daytona. That's completely different.
Sure,
reason.
and that's always been going on.
But I don't think that manufacturers are just going to be like team up and block everyone. I think this is going to be a circumstance by circumstance, and that just was what happened this past weekend.
Yeah, and it's hard now in the situation with the sport where manufacturers have so much power. You know, there's the preferred partners of these manufacturers. They're getting theoretically better equipment. They're getting more information. They're getting more help and assistance from the manufacturer than some of the smaller teams. And all these teams are vying to be their manufacturer's main team. So everybody's going to want to help and not fall out of the good graces.
No, and if you look at it, RCR and Trackhouse are not small teams, but they are not big winning organizations as Hendrick is. And we've all seen what happened with Ross Chastain and Rick Hendrick in the past. So if I was a manufacturer and I was even just Ross Chastain, of course I would try and get back in the good graces of Rick Hendrick and trying to help one of his drivers out. And so I think it's just also a driver by driver standpoint. And I'm not going to throw out names of who I would think wouldn't do that. But I think there are certain people out there that probably wouldn't have done that.
But I was shocked that it was Ross and Austin Dillon. Those would have been two of the names that I would think with no chance would they be helping out William Byron and helping out a Hendrick's car.
See, I think Ross has an underlying.
Ross may be scared. But Austin Dillon, I feel like, would be the kind of guy who'd be like, nah, I'm just going to go past.
That's fair. But if you look at it from a standpoint, RCR really has nothing to show this year.
No, they don't.
And so if you're going to go and you're going to bump and run William Byron, who literally has a chance of getting to the championship 4, you're going to make more enemies than you're actually going to make.
100%. And I think they knew that.
And I don't think that's why. I think that's why they pulled him back at the end of the day. I think if it was for any other championship, not even championship 4, if it was any other race, 100% Austin Dillon would have bumped and run him and he would have been spun out. But I think from a standpoint, they played the safe card there. And I think, yes, they could have been way smarter with how they were wording it on the radio. But I think that at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do. And in my opinion, the person that made it through deserved to make it through because both of them had people helping them out. But one made a move that should not have been made.
Sure. So speaking of the championship 4 and who made it through, this is statistically the worst championship 4 that we've ever seen.
Okay.
Statistically speaking, the 4 drivers who got out last round had better seasons than the 4 drivers who made it forward by wins, average finishing position, variety of metrics. So it's kind of renewed calls for the changing of the playoff format back to either a 10-race series or, you know, a full season points battle like we used to see. And I'm just curious, like, what do you think? Do you think the playoff is worth it still to add the excitement, or is penalizing the best drivers for having a bad 3-race stretch worth it to, you know, create this excitement?
I think that it is. I love the playoffs the way that it is. If you look at from any other sport, yes, it's always, well, this team made it this far and this team, but they do it in baseball. You can have
100%.
3 bad games and you could have had the most wins and you had 3 bad games against the worst team in the NL and then you're out.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so it's just like, why penalize NASCAR and make it, well, this person's the best person and they won 6 races and they're the king of NASCAR and they look so perfect and this is who NASCAR wants plastered on all of their windows and all their walls and the face of NASCAR. No. If you're looking from a NASCAR fan standpoint, you are wanting this excitement. They are gaining more traction. They are gaining younger fans. They are gaining more people, probably more Tyler Reddick fans. It's not just Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch now and Joey Logano. These are bigger names and smaller teams that are having a chance to win a championship at the end of the day. And I think that's what NASCAR was built on. And I'm glad that they're going back to that. Yes. Should people who have higher chances of winning, yes, probably be into the championship 4. But life happens. And I think Kyle Larson will get over it. He already has 2 championships.
True. No, I mean, and that's fair. But I think the thing that separates racing from other sports is that every week you have all of the competitors on the same playing field.
No, and it does.
In baseball, right, you got to go with matchups. In football, you got to go with matchups. And so the only way to determine a champion is by having a playoff.
And that's fair, but if you listen to what other drivers say, everything has to go perfect that day. Sheer dumb luck to win a race. Sure. There is not a play here, a play there. They are calling that minute by minute, second by second. And I think that's why a lot of people love NASCAR. It's not just turning left. It's not just turning in circles and circles and circles, and everyone just looks at you like you're dumb because you love watching cars go in circles. There is so much strategy and things that go into this sport that not a lot of people who are probably listening to this podcast do know, but that the common listener would not know. And I think that that's why you're seeing more people get into the sport nowadays, is because of that excitement. It's not like any other sport. It is genuinely its own stock car, auto racing, and that it brings that excitement. Because if you told me 4 years ago Tyler Reddick was going to be for a championship 4, I would have said you lost your mind. But this man is showing up and he's doing it when it needs to. And I think that that speaks volumes at the end of the day, because teams can show up at the last minute and still win a championship 100%. In any sport.
But like with Reddick, he won the regular season championship. He showed up week after week and consistently earned that. And to me, the regular season championship these days is a better measure of what teams and drivers are having consistent success. And I think that, yes, it's dumb luck to win a race, but that's where it kind of becomes a bad representation of who's been the best driver when it is a 3-race elimination series.
Can I ask what statistics are they? I know what statistics they're going off of, but Joey Logano is a 2-time NASCAR champion.
Sure, but I'm saying statistically this season. So last year, Ryan Blaney set the record for lowest average finishing position by a champion. And this year, he has a lower one, and so does Joey. Joey's averaging like 15th place this year, and somehow has a chance to win a title.
Joey's a special case insane. Because Alex Bowman.
Sure, but even then, like, there's no reason that a guy who's averaging 15th place should be eligible to win the title when there's guys averaging 8th place, 7th place.
No, and I understand that, but I love that part of NASCAR. Life is not fair, and that speaks for everything across the board. Life is not fair.
And so neither should be NASCAR.
I'm not saying neither should be NASCAR. I'm saying they were given these rules from the beginning of the season. They understand how they work. You win and you're in. This wasn't like they just showed up at the end of the actual regular season and said, okay, guys, you're doing 3 races here, 3 races here, 3 races here. If you're horrible at these, then you're out. They were told that from the beginning, and these teams have been working on those cars for months.
100%.
And so, yes, things do happen at the end of the day. But things do happen during the regular season, and if they show up in that summer and win a race, we would be having this conversation, in my opinion, if Harrison Burton had made it through. If these, like Chase Briscoe, then I would be like, okay, what are we doing here with the Final 4? But William Byron has won multiple races this season. Tyler Reddick was the regular season champion. Ryan Blaney is now going for back-to-back championships, and Joey Logano is a 2-time. So it's not like you're sitting here saying that these are nobodies.
No, they're not,
and they don't deserve it.
For sure.
And I think that's where I love that part, is that these are people that had not great regular seasons but are showing up when it actually matters. And I'm not saying that the other drivers didn't, but they were given that same opportunity to show up when it mattered, and it just didn't fall into their place.
No, they absolutely were. And that is, I guess, what NASCAR's going for. It's even called the playoffs. They want a playoff atmosphere. They want that October baseball. They want, that January football playoff feel, where every mistake is magnified over 3 races, every finishing position matters, and they've achieved that for sure.
And that's what I love about that sport.
I just don't know if it's the most representative champion of the season.
No, and that's totally fair, but we can go all the way back to Daniel Hemrick, who won literally no races the entire Xfinity and won the last championship race and won an Xfinity championship. At least in my opinion, these drivers have proven and have won races during the regular season. It wasn't just someone who made it in by points and has slid by all the way up.
Other than Joey.
Joey won.
Joey did win.
We were there.
He was almost out, but he was almost out.
We were there in Nashville.
He
was almost out. But then again, he just got lucky and capitalized on other people's mistakes, but then came out in that next round and won a race.
True.
So it's like Joey Logano took defeat and then was given another chance and said, okay, watch this, and came out. And I think that speaks more excitement into the sport than ever before. Because I'm not a Joey Logano fan, but I'm going to be cheering him for that, because he took defeat, came back, and then actually won a race. And that's what I think is so cool about this sport.
Are you rooting for Joey to win the championship?
That was not what I had said in that.
I'm pretty sure I heard that.
No, that was not. I don't want to be biased.
Yeah, you can be biased.
I'm
Your
not gonna
podcast
be
says now.
biased. No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
Can I? You want me to? That should be later on.
Who's gonna win the title?
Biasly, I want Tyler Reddick to win.
Okay, I like it.
But I think it would be really cool to see Joey win a third because not a lot of people have ever done that in this day and age in the sport.
That is true. 3 titles is a pretty big milestone.
That is a very big milestone.
Before Denny wins one.
Well, that's a whole different story.
Will Denny Hamlin ever win a championship?
Yeah, if Tyler Reddick wins one, he'll technically win as
Yeah,
an
he'll be
owner.
pumped. Well, yeah. So I mean, and that's my thing is for those who don't know, we're headed to Phoenix next week. We'll be out there. I'll be at the race. Ashlyn won't be.
Why are you laughing at me? I'm the one who got you passes.
Nah, you did, and I'm very grateful for that. But selfishly, I would love to see Tyler Reddick win and just see Michael Jordan win a ring. Not a basketball ring, but it would be cool to see MJ win a title. So I'm here for that. I'm rooting for Tyler Reddick. And like I said, I think that the regular season championship, to me now, is more important than even the NASCAR champion.
No, it is, and it proves over... Crap, you're going to make me do
26
math.
races.
Thank you. Math was not mathing right there in my brain.
It proves that you are consistently the best driver over the first 26 races of the season.
Yeah, it does. And I think that I'm glad that the regular season champ made it into the Final Four.
And I'll add on to that. Kyle Larson would have been the regular season champ had he been able to run the Coke 600. And we obviously couldn't because of Indy and the rain. But had he ran and even gotten a couple points at Charlotte that weekend, he would have been regular season champion. And now he, with 6 wins, is sitting outside of the top 4 and not able to win a championship.
Good.
That's crazy.
You told me
though.
I could be biased.
No,
so
you
good.
can. Why don't you like
I
Kyle
have
Larson?
nothing-
Because Dawson will have something to say about that.
He
For
will?
Sure, he's a big Kyle fan.
I'm sorry that your driver's a little dud.
Yeah, but see, you're so locked in on these drivers' personalities, which I respect. It's
I
important.
am.
Brandability, marketability is important. But
I feel like this day and age, you have to have personality. You have to be willing to put yourself out there on social media. I don't care if you're an artist. I don't care if you're a driver. I don't care if you're a football player. I don't care if you're a musician teacher and you want to be noticed and move your way up. You have to have personality and you have to have that wow factor. Kyle Larson has the wow factor in his driving. He doesn't have the wow factor in his regular
and
life.
yet, how does Chase Elliott continue to win most popular driver year after year after year?
Because
is it
of
just
his
rigged?
dad.
Yeah, okay, but at
That's
some
how
point,
Dale Jr. won it.
At some point, no, Dale Jr. though gave good interviews. He was fun.
You're going to tell me
driving
if
out
he
there,
didn't
you know.
have that Earnhardt last
No, it
name,
definitely
he
helped. It
probably
definitely helped.
wouldn't.
But do you?
But
think,
you know who
do
beat
you
him out
think-
the one year? Casey Kane.
That's true.
And I will go on that rant. I don't think these people want to go on my
For
Casey
those who
Kane
don't know,
rant.
Ashlyn's a huge Casey Kane fan, so yeah, watch out. No, but I mean, at some point, that dad factor's got to wear off on Chase, right? If what you say is true about marketability, because according to you, his
He's a dud.
personality is not there. So
No.
what consistently makes him the most popular driver, and will that stop anytime soon?
Probably. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so because from my standpoint and the way that I look at it is that they base it off of who their dad is.
Yeah.
And as of right now, with everything that is happening, I want a Chase Briscoe. I want a Todd Gilliland. I want a Harrison Burton. I want those guys who actually have personality, that do the interviews, that show who they are, to win most popular driver.
That would be cool.
But I know that that will not happen because of also the teams that they are on. And I think that also plays a factor into it. Yes, Bill Elliott's name is going to play a huge factor into that. But if you are just scrolling through Instagram, you're going to see more Hendrick and more Joe Gibbs and more Penske than you are going to see 2311 and Front Row Motorsports in a one single kart team with a 21.
100%.
And so I think that's where Wood Brothers, sorry, that was literally escaping my brain. And so I think that also plays a huge factor into it, is that they are given more of a chance and a magnitude of putting who they are out there in the world than these smaller teams are. And I think that people need to look at these smaller teams and see who those drivers are and see that these are great drivers, and just because they don't win as much as these bigger teams are, maybe they're more fun. Maybe like
right?
that.
They do have good personalities.
They have
and-
great
yeah.
personalities. Literally, go talk to Todd. Go talk to Todd Gillen. He is the funniest person that you will ever meet.
We should get him on the podcast.
We should. That'd be really cool. Go talk to Harrison Burton. Yes, he's had a hard season. Yes, he's going down to the Xfinity. But go talk to these younger drivers. And I think that that's awesome as well. And, like, they have popular dads.
Yeah, right, 100%.
But I also think that Chase came out with such a bang coming from Hendrick.
He did, and coming up to the 24, even though he switched out of it.
And then he's in the 9. And so there is such a popularity factor with just a number as well, that I think that also plays into nostalgic for a lot of NASCAR people.
Absolutely. And NASCAR's a huge nostalgia sport.
It is.
Which is why you have all the purists arguing, you know, for a full season championship and things like that.
And I understand that, but times are changing, people. I'm putting my hand down.
What if they did a NASCAR playoff champion and a NASCAR full season champion?
There's just too many champions, and now we're just handing out participation awards.
It's just two.
We're handing out participation awards, and I'm not here for that.
It's just two.
I'm not here for that.
You could appease both sides, though. And then, if they really want to go down the route of these other sports, you open up the chance for somebody to win a double crown.
Whoa.
And that's an even cooler
so
achievement
cool.
that they can market.
No.
That's more money and more marketing, though.
But NASCAR doesn't have that much money.
More money for them.
Oh, okay.
They want more money.
Nah, I'm good.
Not a fan.
Not a fan.
Here's what we'll do. We'll go out to Bowman Gray before the Clash next year, and we'll race one-on-one. Winner can have it their way.
Us?
Yeah.
How are we getting on Bowman Gray?
We're just going to tell NASCAR. We're going to say, this is what we're doing.
I'll see.
If I win, you make a regular season 36 race champion.
I don't think that's how that's going to work.
You got the connections. Let's hook it up.
I know a couple people that can help us with that, but not to that level.
I think that'd be fire. We'll go out to K1 one day. We'll bring Caleb and Dawson, and we'll do the NASCAR podcast derby.
You just said fire.
Yeah.
On live.
Yeah.
You don't talk like that in person.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. But anyway, championship race coming up. Very excited.
Yes.
Also, there hasn't been one of these episodes in a while. So, is there anything that stuck out to you since September?
I'm a little biased because I worked the race at the Roval, so I actually know what happened in that one. From a standpoint, I think that honestly changed the trajectory of the entire playoffs, because that's when Alex Bowman did get the penalty and moved Joey Logano through, but also we almost lost Tyler Reddick in that round.
Really close.
That whole race right there truly changed the trajectory into the round of 8. And I think for the entire playoffs, because 2 of those final 4 people would not even be there if it weren't for that Roval race.
No, it totally did.
And so I think that's what stood out to me the most. The only other thing that stands out to me is Darlington with Chase Briscoe winning. And I think that we're going to see not these unknown name drivers, but I think that these smaller teams and these drivers that are moving up, I think we're going to see a lot more out of them in these next couple of years, especially with how NASCAR is changing. And I think I'm really excited for that, because at the end of the day, I grew up a Hendrick fan. As he said, I am a Casey Kane fan through and through. But I am a little tired of seeing Hendrick and Penske and Joe Gibbs kind of take over.
Boo, Hendrick.
I know you can boo
Hendrick
me, Mr. Jeff Gordon. Mr. Jeff Gordon over here. If you didn't know, he's the biggest Jeff Gordon fan, by the way. But it to me, it's basically like, okay, yay, the Chiefs are 8-0 again, too. Here we go again, basically. And I'm ready to see something different in this sport. And I think that that's why I love the playoffs so much, because it gives people that may not have the best season the opportunity to prove themselves under pressure when that time comes. Yeah. And so I think that's why I look at it differently than you probably do, because I love an underdog story, especially in NASCAR.
So that's it for the first half of this episode here on Raised Rowdy Racing. New host, Ike Everard, Ashlyn Register. Dawson's coming right up, and Caleb will be back when he's back from his honeymoon. So we hope he's having a great time out there.
Yeah, send a DM congratulating him.
Yeah, go congratulate Caleb in the Instagram comments and DMs and all that. So till next time, till the second half of this episode, it's Ike Everard.
Ashlyn Register.
Welcome back into Raised Rowdy Racing. Ike Everard now here with your familiar host, Dawson Edwards. Dawson, how's it going?
What's up, dude? How are you?
I'm good. Man, I think we got a lot to talk about this week.
Yeah,
a lot of exciting drama for sure.
Yeah, it was a wild week. kind of a black eye in a way for some. I posted on Twitter, like I just called it lame. Like that was really the only way I knew how to post, like to express those last like couple. What was it, like 20 laps there where all the stuff?
It kind of was, right? I mean, it wasn't racing.
No,
it was
no.
It was weird. It was like,
yeah. I texted my dad during the race, and I'm sitting there, and I was like, William Byron, he did that exact same thing last year. Like the long run just like wasn't there. He just falling back, and I actually in my mind I was like, dude, I was literally sitting there. I was like, no way that they're like sandbagging behind him, like not trying to pass him. And I thought
right.
I thought that, and I texted my dad. I was like, how is William Byron like holding these guys off? And he was like, he's blocking like hell with his spotter, I guess. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, he is blocking like hell. But I was like, I really hope they're not doing that. And like, they're two Chevrolets. I was looking at it, and I'm like, man, I just really hope that's not the case. And then, after the race was over, I loved that they played the audio from like all the different teams. Like,
I like that they weren't scared to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think that would.
Dude, how dumb were they to like talk about it like that on the radio though?
Yeah, and it's already
like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's not private. Like they know that literally everyone's listening. I mean, literally you can go back now, and I'm not sure what these accounts on Twitter use, but you know how like every car has an onboard, like right in like the right front area now, and you can sync those with the audio. Like they can go back and clip the whole entire race, and people do that, right after races all the time on some of these accounts on Twitter. And I mean, there's just no denying anything now with SMT and having the onboards in every car and being able to line up everything. There's just nothing. It's just not like it was, and that's a really new thing that they've started with all this. So like now that that's a thing, there's literally no way to hide it. So
no, I mean it is, yeah. It's crazy to me that like I guess it comes from the manufacturers, right? It's crazy to me the two cars that were doing it, like Ross and Austin Dillon, are the two cars that I would probably least expect to be helping out Hendrick.
Yeah, I agree. I guess it had to be a Chevrolet thing. And then I don't know if you heard what they said to SVG, but they told him like, hey, remember what the 12 did to you? That's from Chevrolet. And it's like, I don't know, like, does Chevrolet like have a person there that's like telling these guys this or what? Like, I don't know how that works.
I think they got like a Chevy race center, right? So they're probably in communication with all the teams.
Yeah, I guess so. Like at the kind of like the war room kind of thing for the team.
Because I mean, it's so huge for them to get these guys through, and they want manufacturers championship. They want to be the championship winners manufacturer.
Yeah, and let's not act like they're any short of money. So I don't think like monetary fines really matter to these.
No, and that's the other thing, right? Is these penalties that got handed down are not that strict.
Yeah, I agree. And it always gets brought up, the 2013 Richmond, the spin gate thing with like Clint Boyer and Michael Waltrip Racing and all that. And like those penalties, like essentially like put Michael Waltrip Racing like out of business. And it was very similar to what they said. I mean, I'm pretty sure they like literally said on the radio, like spin out basically, or, something like that. I think like that was the talk about, I want to say like Brian Vickers, like they called him into pit for no reason. And there was just certain things they like specifically said. And I know that like no one said like, hey, spin out or, hey, layover or whatever. But it was just, kind of weird. Like, I just don't remember it being, I mean, I know we had those couple instances, but like all this, like something else, I'll give an example that really kind of pissed me off at the Talladega race when Kyle Larson's pushing Brad Keselowski and then the spotter's telling him like, don't push him here so that Ricky Stenhouse, another Chevrolet, can win.
Right.
Like, what is that? Like, I don't understand that. Like if Larson pushes Brad K, in my mind, that not that I don't think Larson could have passed Brad K, but I think if he's pushing him hard enough, they would have passed Ricky Stenhouse. That's an extra point for Larson. You know what I mean? I just don't remember that stuff back in the day. Like plate racing's gotten so bad about it now, but like back in the day, it didn't matter if you were a Dodge pushing a Ford or a Ford pushing a Chevy. It was more of like a driver to driver thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, like Tony Stewart and Dale Jr., they were like always buddies on plate tracks. They didn't drive for the same team, and they drove for Chevrolet at the same time. And then Tony was a Toyota for a little bit, and then back to a Chevrolet and his own team. But I don't know. It's just gotten, these manufacturers have gotten like too involved, like with the actual racing. I would say like they need to be involved with money and support and all that. Yes, but like with the actual racing, they're like too involved, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's so much incentive now to like please your manufacturer and to not get on their bad side because you want to be that number one team with them. And so, you know, if you get knocked down the pecking order, it's going to impact your race team in a big way.
I mean, you see it right now with Ford and Stewart Haas when they took away their like tier one, you know, exactly what you're talking about.
It crushed them. I mean, it ended Stewart Haas basically. So like, you can't piss off the manufacturer in the way that the sport's structured right now. And I don't know how you go back to how it was just because of the incentives that are in place now, you know, for manufacturers and teams.
Yeah. And, you know, people, you can blame it on the playoffs. You can blame it on a lot of stuff, but it's just really like, I just wish it didn't matter, playoffs or not. I just wish every team would go out there and fight for their best finish possible for that day is what I wish, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, you know, like last week, you only had, this is where it kind of gets weird for me. You only have 8 guys really racing for anything. So, like, at this point in the season, what does it hurt the 3 and the 1 to help out, or the 23 to help out the 20? It doesn't hurt them at all, you know?
It only helps them, you know, and now they're owed one next year.
Yeah, yeah, and I saw where it took I mean, what a brutal year for RCR, but it took the 3 from like 28th to 33rd in points. Like 33rd in points is like, that's legit a black eye. Like that's brutal. You know, that
really is.
That's
in
down
the 3
there.
car, no less.
Yeah.
Like
that's rough to come at the end of the year, you know, to happen with what happened at Richmond with them and what happened, you know, this past weekend. It's like, what a just bad season and look all the way around. And then now this is the second time their spotter's getting suspended on the year after, you know, whatever he said, like wreck them or do this, you know, at Richmond and stuff. So
and Kyle Busch missing the playoffs and just the whole, you know, how do you take the most, maybe not the most marketable driver, but one of the most marketable drivers and considered maybe the best driver in the sport and just turn him into basically a non-factor?
That's what I was about to say.
It's crazy.
In my opinion, Kyle Busch is still one of, if not the best. I mean, he's got to be top 3 talent-wise on the track. Still, even though that he's, you know, getting a little older, it's not like he's 55, Darrell Walterman around there, you know, like he did at the end of his career. You know, he's like,
that's where Denny Hamlin's going to end up.
Yeah, yeah. He still has it, and Denny still has it, and Denny
still has it too, for sure.
They just had some stuff, you know, go wonky as it always does.
His window's closing, though.
It is, yeah, because I think he's in his 40s. I think he's like 43,
he's low 40s.
44, something like that. So, yeah, his window is closing, but Kyle Busch is still a little bit younger. I think Kyle Busch is like 39, 38, or 40, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
like,
Kyle's got time. I mean, if he gets good equipment, and I feel like they had really bad luck this year, too. That definitely played a role.
Yeah, and I think Kyle getting put into those, you know, we saw Kyle make a lot of mistakes this year that I think he was literally racing too hard, trying to overcompensate for this streak going on and not, you know, his 20-year streak of a win per year and, like, you know, not running well and just all this. It's like, if you put that, all those couple situations I can think of throughout the year, if you put that back, you know, if he was having a great year, I think he comes out of all those situations a whole lot better and might even have a couple wins this year without overdriving that car.
No doubt. I feel like there was a lot of races where he was contending and he just didn't work out for him.
Yeah. And like being so over aggressive at Darlington is the main one that comes to mind when he was with Chase Briscoe, you know, trying to passing on the outside. And there was literally enough room for a car. You know, it was just wide enough for the, you know, between the wall and his car. And I think if he could have just, I can't remember who was behind him, but somebody was coming. And if he would have just could have laid off there in that corner, I think he might have had him in the next corner, you know, just stuff like that is how I feel.
Yep. And I mean, Kyle Larson's done the same thing this year, but he's just managed to win 6 times. But I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that winning we knew this would happen with the playoff format, but winning is so important now that I think a lot of these guys are they're going all out for it. And that's what NASCAR wanted.
Yeah.
That's exactly where it's supposed to be. And we saw like it pay off at Homestead. That was beautiful racing.
Yeah, perfect. If every I love what Dale Jr. said about that. Like that's what I expect in NASCAR in a NASCAR race. Like me and Caleb, not too long ago, earlier this year, we went back and watched the '04 Homestead race, and you just kind of forget, like, it just looks like the cars could just pass and just do all this stuff, and there's cars because they were. And it is true. They were so much harder to drive back then because they had so much horsepower and less tire, you know. So there's guys just busting their ass, and it's like, I just agree with what Dale Jr. said. Like that race is like what I expect of a stock car NASCAR race on an oval. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's crazy to hear drivers complaining about the car being too hard to drive because, like, wouldn't you want that? I feel like that's kind of the point of the sport is it shouldn't be easy.
Yeah. I think
not made to be easy.
I think it's still super hard to drive. It's just in a different way, if that makes sense. Like with passing being so much, like being so aero dependent, it obviously is one thing. And then I've heard the drivers talk about having that, like when a car like gets loose, there's no really saving it. It's more of just like it snaps loose. And in my opinion, I think that has to do with the smaller sidewall because there's literally less sidewall to lean on, you know. I think that's what that has to do with. So, you know, I don't know, but all that to say, I was disappointed. It's disappointing that how awesome of the Martinsville race was because, like we said before, it was like the best Martinsville race since this new next gen package, you know. And
it was a blast to watch. And coming out of Homestead, I mean, we've seen some really great racing this year.
Yeah,
overall,
I mean, overall,
great
I think this has been one of the best. Like, there's definitely been some low points, but there's also been some very like high points. Like if you look at Jeff Gluck's, you know, little was it a good race poll? Yeah, it's like some of the best races in his top 10 poll have happened this year, and I do think this overall, like some of the finishes, some of the racing has been some of the best. It's just some of those little things where it's like if they had like that super soft tire that they ran at Martinsville, and some of these things, like if they could just fix their road courses and short tracks, it would almost be like really badass every single week.
No, it really would. And I mean, I think they're getting there on the short tracks. I think they'll figure it out. Maybe it's the tires, maybe it's just little package adjustments. But you know, and I think the drivers are getting more comfortable racing this car at the short tracks too.
Yeah.
I think they're figuring out where they can push and where they can kind of find a little bit of speed and make passes. So hopefully, you know, I don't think they're going away from the next gen car anytime soon.
No, I don't think so
either. Hopefully as this kind of progresses and they get more practice with it, they'll be able to figure it out even more. And
I think Martinsville was a huge step in the right direction. Like
it was
the cars looked awesome to me with all the rubber and how dirty and nasty they looked. It was like, that's how a race car is supposed to look after 500 laps at Martinsville. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
It's supposed to look dirty and mashed up and just, you know, having dings and dents all over it. Like, that's what I want a car to look like. So I really 100%. Do think that was a step in the right direction with that really soft tire that they brought on the I think it was on the right sides were the softer compound.
Yeah, no, that worked well.
Yeah,
that worked well, and I think tire fall off is always good too.
Oh yeah, tire fall off is what we need. We don't need tires that can outrun a tank of gas. That has never been good for racing, and it never will be.
No, agreed.
Yeah.
Do you agree with how they officiated that ending though with Bell and Byron?
Yes. I agree. In real time watching it, you would have to literally be blind, in my opinion, to not see and hear Bell throttle up in the gas while he was in the wall.
For sure.
That's as clear as day, in my opinion. And obviously he did not go into the corner like Ross did, but when he hit the wall, he stayed in the gas and intended to stay in the wall. And I think that's the most like clear cut thing of it all. And I was, you know, texting Caleb and Steven. We have a little Steven Paul. We have a little Sunday racing chat, during the race. And I was like, that is the Hail Melon, in my opinion. Like, what happened is the Hail Melon. And if NASCAR is going to have a rule against it, they better do something, because they said that is now illegal.
Yep. No, I mean, absolutely. I feel like the craziest part is he literally could have gotten out of the gas, come off the wall, and still been ahead of Bubba.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's almost like he didn't realize Bubba was helping him. And I don't know if Bubba was helping him on purpose, but it seems a little suspect that he just had a flat tire or something happened to his car in the last lap when, another Toyota needed to pass him.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That seems a little crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I don't think Bell realized what was happening, with the 23. But obviously with the penalty coming out, let's just be honest. I feel like it's clear cut now. He was giving it to him. I mean, he was sandbagging and going to lay over and give Bell the spot. And,
for sure.
That's not cool, in my opinion. And it's not cool. It's not cool what the 23 did. It's not cool what the 3 and the 1 did. The only thing here is it helped Byron, and I also don't know. Did Byron know that they were just going to block like that? Like, same thing. I don't know.
Right. I think he must have. The way they were talking about that plan on the radio, I feel like all the Chevy teams knew, and I think their
plan was to get the most Chevrolets in. And
yeah, if it had been Larson falling, I think they would have blocked for Larson. Yeah. If it had been whoever, Chase, whatever, happened, it would have been the same.
And and
I think Chevy said if Ross had been in that spot, they would have blocked for Ross.
Yeah.
And who knows if that would have happened, but I assume it would.
Yeah, that's the thing though that would be hard to police is in the exact moment. Say Bell doesn't fly into the wall and pull that move. Okay.
Right. If he passes Bubba clean.
Yeah. So if he passes Bubba clean, and this is where it gets tricky, in my opinion. I don't think you can penalize Bell and Byron, because those two guys specifically, they were just racing. They weren't doing anything. They were not manipulating it.
Sure.
The manipulating is helping them, but those two guys weren't the ones doing the manipulation. So if Bell doesn't hit the wall, I don't think you penalize. Well, obviously they didn't penalize Byron, but I don't think they would have penalized either one of them. But I do think they penalized, and something was going to have to happen to prove a point for the 23, the 1, and the 3. Because, like you said, being in this late in the year, those 50 points, the couple $100,000 that they're doing, like, what does that really matter?
Right, now their crew chief gets a vacation for a week.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he's mad.
So in this situation, I don't think it matters. Maybe they look at that later on or earlier in the season. If you get docked 50 points, you're like, that's a whole race and then some probably for most of those guys. So it's
that's a big deal if you're trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah, but. Elton Sawyer also read or watched what he said, and he was like, this is to prove a point. Like, we're not opposed to, suspending drivers and, stuff like that. In my opinion, and this is like super, super harsh, but like, if you wanted to just like prove a point, what if you just took everybody out for Daytona 500? Driver, crew chief, spotter, everybody for next year. Like, if they wanted to
would you give them a playoff waiver though, at least?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
But honestly, that would prove a point.
That's the thing. I think I assume they would get the waiver because I guess they always do. But if you start suspending guys and not giving waivers, then something would change. But also, I think the significance of the Daytona 500 would also be like sitting the Daytona 500 out would be a huge deal. And say you still got the waiver, whatever, but like missing the biggest race of the year. Like, that would have been hilarious, honestly, in my opinion.
It would have been hilarious. I would have loved to see like Ross and Austin's reaction to that.
Yeah, they would have been pissed. Like, that would have pissed them off,
Yeah.
Like you just said, I don't know if any of this really matters to anyone else. Kind of what we were talking about with the OEMs having the money. Yes, the team gets fined, whatever, but there's never been a rule of like who pays those fines. And I've heard that if a driver gets fined, sometimes it's in their contract that they have to pay for it. If it's for, something else, the team has to pay for it. I heard like when Ricky got fined for like punching Kyle Busch. Like, that was an action that Ricky decided to do, so like he would probably have to pay that fine. But when these fines all happen, you don't know who pays them. You know what I mean? Like,
it's 100%. In this case, I'm sure it's the teams or like the manufacturers. Like, I'm sure that
that's
I'm
what I
sure
was about
Chevy's
to say.
coming in.
Chevy just comes in and writes a
it.
check
Yeah.
for $400,000 for the 1 and the 3, and Toyota comes in and writes a check for $200,000. Because I'm pretty sure it was like driver and crew chief all got fined $100,000 each. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And crew chief got suspended, right, for the last race.
Crew chief and spotters, and
so here's the underrated story though for that
directors.
is that was going to be Booty Barker's last race
I
as a crew chief.
Yeah.
Now he's done.
Now
Now he doesn't get that. So I mean, does it prove a point? No, but it's kind of sad a little bit.
Yeah. If you just get what you get when you do stupid shit, in my opinion, I guess.
No doubt.
When you just blatantly sandbag in racing, it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, every team. That's why they had that like 100% rule that is clearly not in it anymore, because there's a lot of teams that don't do it. And if you do this, you even got to think back to a couple years ago when Blaney was not in the Final Four when Logano won the title. Blaney rode behind the 22 and kind of blocked for him in a way and never tried to pass him. Like, they would have to crack, if they're going to do this 100% thing, you got to crack down on it every single race. If that's a thing, you'd have to fine Kyle Larson for Talladega because he's not giving 100%. Clearly, they say don't push him.
Yep.
Don't push him. Whatever. So
it's just an impossible rule to police, though, because
Exactly.
sometimes it's strategic. You're not giving 100% if you're trying to save fuel, but how do you compare that to a different situation unless there's blatant calls for it on the radio?
Exactly. It's same. There's going to be. I feel like in my mind, and I'm going to use the example that I heard TJ Majors bring up on Door Bumper Clear, there's got to be like a common sense rule. And like when he says, well, what if we get wrecked coming to the start-finish line at Talladega and we get in the wall and stay in the wall and stay in the gas? Is that a penalty? No, I don't think that's a penalty. Like, it doesn't help you to stay in the wall. It's not an advantage to stay in the wall at Talladega like it is at like a Martinsville, or like it could be at a Phoenix or a Gate. You know what I mean? Some of these, tracks where it clearly is
any track that you got to slow down into the corner is probably going to help.
Exactly. And no, you're not going to be able to do it every lap, but on these last lap things, whatever. So like, there has to be like a common sense aspect to these rules that I'm talking about here. So like, no, I don't think you get penalized if you get in the wall at Talladega and you stay in the gas. No, I don't think so, because that's not your advantage. But like, if you go in, if you completely, like we clearly saw Bell, he was not trying to make the corner in a normal way. He went in there, way overdrove it. He locks the brakes up, almost wrecks it, turns completely sideways, hits the wall, stays in the gas coming out of the wall. And literally you put the videos side by side from where he gets into the wall and what Ross did, they look identical. So
yeah, it's the same move.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where that common sense comes in. Boom, I call that riding the wall. Boom, penalty. I'm glad they penalized him for it. I really am. Like, he didn't even have to do it, but I'm glad that he got penalized for it, because I feel like NASCAR is also the only thing they're consistent at is being inconsistent. And I feel like that is consistent with that rule. So I was like, okay, I'll take that. I like that penalty there.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think that any other outcome would have just opened the door to more criticism and probably more, just more kind of talk around the championship four being illegitimate. And I feel like there's already enough talk around it being the wrong championship four. I mean, me and Ashlyn talked about it a bit. Is like, it's a hazard of the playoff format, right? But you get guys who don't necessarily have the stats to back it up, but they performed well in October. They performed well in the playoffs and they've made it through. So that's what NASCAR wants. And Ashlyn was saying, that's what other sports have, and that's the drama and excitement, and that makes sense. But to me, like, not having Larson in the Final Four when he's won 6 times is kind of ridiculous. Let's say Reddick had missed it. If Reddick hadn't won, regular season champ missing it, it's kind of brutal to me. Like, I don't think
I agree with you 100%
that we're getting representative champions, especially this year. I mean, last year Blaney had the lowest averaging finishing position of any champ.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, there's a chance for that to be broken. So I don't think the playoff isn't working, because I think it's bringing in excitement and viewers, but I just kind of have issues with the way it crowns a champion.
I agree with you 100%. I wish I just feel like NASCAR really did have the perfect recipe back literally 20 years ago when they implemented the first chase, where it was 10 guys for 10 races.
Yeah.
And that created excitement. I mean, I don't know if you remember in 2011, they literally had a tie for the championship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. And it didn't create excitement every year, but that's okay. I mean, it's racing. It's going to be exciting no matter what.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. It's just having these like 3 race seasons basically, and then having the last race is one season. Like, it doesn't show like a full body of work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like in football, like since football is literally king, football's on top. Even though their playoffs are still exactly the same as a normal game, if that makes sense. Like, you're playing on the same field for the same time. May the best man win.
Opponent, you know, if you don't have 36, 38 guys out there, like you're not
exactly. There's other like you're telling me you could go into Phoenix and be on the outside of a guy that blows a tire and puts you in the wall, you know, with him. And then your championship runs over.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about, in football, a team from a player from a different team sacking your quarterback, you know, blindsiding him, you know, running off the sideline. So that's where it's like, it's just motorsports are just different than ball and stick sports. And in my opinion, like, that's okay. It doesn't have to be the same, you know, like it just doesn't. And I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I don't want to see back the way it was in, you know, 1990 when a guy won the championship 5 races for the end of the year. Like, that's not fun. And I understand that. And literally the last, you know, 3-5 races literally don't mean anything. We don't want that. But like 10, you need a sample size for racing, not one race, or even, I don't even know if 3 races is enough. If it is 3 races, it's got to be like 3 racy tracks, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like a kind of, they even say like the last, you know, I hear a lot of people love like that last stage with like Martinsville, Homestead, and Las Vegas. Is that the other one?
Yeah.
Like that's probably a good sample size, but it's like, is 3 races enough to give you like what it really is? That's why I just think 10 is like perfect. You got 10 guys, 10 races, let them go, you know?
Right.
And
I think so too.
Yeah. Another thing that really bugs me about the playoffs is having too many playoff drivers. Like 16 playoff guys is half the field, which is almost half the field. It's like half off to 30 would be 32. But it's just, when you show up to a racetrack anywhere across the country, whether it's in NASCAR or, you know, smaller series, local tracks, you run for top 10s, top 5s, and wins. No one shows up to run 16th. So I don't know why they reward the guys in 11th through 16th in points to get to go to the playoffs. And, you know, it's just like what they always say. Well, the sponsors wanted it to be, they all wanted to have a chance, and like they want to do this. In my opinion, get better drivers. If your driver can't make the top 10 in points, like, get a better driver. I don't know, you know, put more money in to get a better team, you know, whatever. Don't, you know, water it down with that. Same thing that they've said, you know, about the Clash over those years and the All-Star race. It's like, hell, if you got a driver's license, you can enter the All-Star race or the Clash. It's like the Clash used to mean something because it was everybody that had a pole, and that was it. If only 7 guys had a pole that year, those 7 raced. And if 25 guys had a pole that year, those 25 raced. Like, it's just
it's watered down.
Too watered down. Yeah. I want the best of the best to fight for these situations. Like, it's just like, you know, going in, like those guys like Cindric, Suarez, Harrison Burton, like just you know, just to name a few that I can think of off the top of my head. Like, yeah, they made the playoffs. Yeah, they won a race, but you know, those guys are not going to win a championship.
No, right?
They're not, like, they don't run well enough every week to outrun Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, those guys. You know what I mean? So it's just, I just wish they would take the best 10 and not do the win in your end thing. The best 10 in regular season points, those are the 10 guys that are going to go for 10 races. I feel like they had the freaking recipe for success from 2004 to 20. I think it changed in 2014 or whatever it was. I feel like that was like perfect. The only thing was Jimmy Johnson won it 7 times is the only thing that screwed it up. But like it was just perfect, man. And I think now if they did that nowadays, it would really be, you would have guys, because the parity of the racing now where it's everybody's so close, you would have very, very close at the last race. You would have 2, if not 3 guys racing for the title within a couple points of each other.
For sure. And like nobody's out there saying Michael Jordan dominating and winning all these rings ruined the NBA or that Tom Brady ruined the NFL.
Exactly.
Like if there's a dominant athlete in your sport, then that's how it is. Like that's how sports work. Sometimes some guy comes in and he's a generational talent and he just dominates.
Exactly. To be the best,
And
you got
I
to
don't
beat the
think-
best.
Yeah, you shouldn't change the system just because one guy is like generationally good. You know how hard it would be now for somebody to get 7 titles?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%.
Like it could happen, I guess.
Well, they're talking
And
about
it could happen to someone who doesn't even deserve it.
exactly. And you're talking now, and I didn't even realize this. They haven't had a guy go back-to-back titles since this format started, which is what NASCAR wants. Obviously, that's what
They
going
want different
for.
champs.
Yeah,
But it kind of makes the championship feel less meaningful. Like to me, I was saying this, like I don't think that the championship holds as much weight as it used to. I think the regular season championship does. Like I love looking at who wins that. And I thought that it was a great battle. I mean, obviously if Kyle Larson had competed in the Coke 600, it would be him and Reddick. And, you know, I think Kyle Larson probably would have won it. But I don't know. I almost feel like there needs to be 2 championships now. And they do a regular season points championship and then combine that with the playoff points championship.
yeah,
And so they award somebody a full season title and a NASCAR playoffs champion.
yeah. I agree with
And
you.
maybe that would water it down. Maybe that would, you know, create more issues. But, you know, why not? Like, I mean, people are already doing it on Twitter. People keep track of it under whatever points formats you want to see. So you might as well just acknowledge it and award somebody that as well and give them a ring or something.
Yeah, you want to award somebody for a full body season's worth of work.
I think so. And it creates more drama at Phoenix then, because then you got these 4 guys racing for the NASCAR playoffs championship, and you also got maybe some other guys, maybe the same guys racing for the full season points championship. I think that could be great TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I really do just wish it was more. No, I mean, I just agree with you. I wish it was more of a more sample size than just 3 in one race, you know?
Yeah. Do you think we'll see Ryan Blaney go back to back?
Dude, he's so good at Phoenix. I think
it's going to be hard to beat him.
Yeah, just between like how he runs at like Gateway and New Hampshire and, you know, these flat mile-ish long tracks, he's going to be hard to beat, you know? And I think with Penske having 2 cars in there, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Even though Logano, we're talking about regular season points, from what I see in regular season points, he's like 15th. Like, even though he hasn't had the greatest year ever, Joe Logano's an incredible race car driver, and they're going to have 2 of the best cars out there. It would not surprise me to see him 1-2, honestly.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, now, though, that we've seen these penalties from race manipulation not being too harsh, obviously it could get harsher. Do you think we'll see any kind of, like, manufacturer teamwork out there? Because I almost wonder, you know, if, like, they're going to take a look at the penalties that were handed down and, you know, you're going to see a Chevy blockade. It might.
Yeah. I just hope not.
I hope not, too. I mean, that would,
tarnish the whole shebang, you know?
It would be a stain.
That's another thing that's really bugs me about this one race thing. So, like, you got the guy, in my opinion, you can really I'm talking about car-wise here. You can just cheat like absolute hell in the last race because they're not going to let the champion get crowned the champion, do the whole shebang, and then go tear his car down and be like, oh, nope, he's disqualified. The race,
no chance they're doing
There's
that.
no chance. Like, that's not going to happen. So, like, there's a reason, and, you know, you hear, I know it just, for the first time ever happened last year, a car that wasn't the championship 4 won the race, you know, with Chastain. But there's a reason when they go into Phoenix that the top 4 cars are the playoff cars. And in my opinion, it's because they are cheated up to the absolute max as they could go. They're trimmed out. They're just literally every little thing you do to make that car go faster, they got it in those cars.
And I don't think NASCAR minds that. I think they want those 4 guys up front.
Totally.
I think they want to see that battle. And so I think they kind of like, you know, I'm not saying that they tell the teams to do it, but I think they definitely turn a blind eye.
Yeah,
like you're saying. I mean, they're not going to penalize them after the fact, but I don't think they're really checking that hard in pre-race either.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at with it. And that kind of that is what it is. I don't really know how to feel about that, but like, I just wish I wish there was more cheating all the way around. Honestly, as bad as that sounds, I wish there was, like it used to be. Like they really. There was more. Each of these cars could be the smarter the crew chief you have, the better, more aerodynamic or more horsepower, whatever your car is going to have. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Jimmy Johnson's an incredible talent, but he wouldn't have 7 championships if it wasn't Chad Knaus building some of the most incredible race cars that have ever been built. So all that goes hand in hand. I guess
it's kind of a lost art these days. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, you can only do so much when you have to buy the car, all these parts and pieces from an outside source. Like you're not building them in house anymore. Which is, I don't know, just not my favorite thing. But hey.
Yeah, what can you do? Yeah. I mean, they're trying to get new owners in, and we haven't seen a new owner recently. I feel like we got a big wave. Yeah. I wonder. I mean, this is a good segue into the charter thing because I wonder how how that plays out, how that's going to affect new owners coming in, because that could really shift the landscape a lot too.
Yeah, I think you're not going to see anybody new coming in yet until all this gets figured out. And there's a lot. I heard that the judge would have a. So they went to court on Monday for the first time. And Jeff Gluck and them were talking like the judge he could have made a decision Monday, like it was in the cards, like he could have if he wanted to, needed to, whatever. But from what I hear, it'll be made by Friday on this first.
Really? So we'll know before the race.
Yeah, we should know before the race on like what the situation is, like if they're going to let. The way I understand it, and you could go listen. Did you listen to Door Bumper Clear? At all?
No, I didn't.
If you listen to the very first part of Door Bumper Clear, Jeff Gluck does a great job at like explaining exactly what's going on with this week. So this, like, I think it's called an injunction, which is like where they're kind of do this like speedy process, is basically to see if Front Row and 2311 will get to keep the charters they have for next season, because in the agreements that they've already signed. Now, this is the original agreement, what they signed. When this is over, if you don't sign it, NASCAR takes away your charters.
Right.
That was in the original thing, which they signed, so that's where it's like kind of you signed it and it said you can take them away. Now, that doesn't mean you can't fight on this next one for sure, but we're going to know if they're going to have their charters or not this week for next year. And I hear what Denny says about like, we'll run open cars. It's not going to affect any of our employees. They'll get paid the same, whatever. And I believe all that, but there is a clause, and I haven't seen this about Bubba Wallace.
No, only Reddick.
Only Reddick. The clause is he can go to another team if they don't have a charter. So,
and how crazy would that be?
Crazy.
Especially if it wins the title.
Yeah. So it's just, there's some craziness going on in that, and NASCAR is being the bully, in that way of like, I mean, I saw some stuff, and I don't know how true this is, but like, I mean, I've heard them talk about it, so I think it's kind of true. But if this happens, apparently NASCAR attains these charters, and they can field cars.
Yeah,
like NASCAR can field cars, and so from what I read, they're saying they're going off of there's going to be 32 teams next year, and instead of splitting the money up 36 ways, the money gets split up 32 ways. So like those 32 cars get more money.
Yep, and now you got more open teams, and
so I don't know.
It's going to be really interesting. I mean, I just think it's going to be crazy if the sponsors run and if Reddick leaves. I don't think he would. I mean, that's just my theory and opinion.
Yeah,
I don't think he's the kind of guy who would just bolt because they don't have a charter. I think he'd step up to the plate.
Yeah.
And as long as they said they were going to keep fighting to get the charter back eventually, he would stay and race for Denny.
And this is the thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, how big of a hit would it be to 2311, though? They've hit this point now where they're nearly title contenders every year. I mean, they are. They're in the championship 4. If they lose these sponsors, though, that's going to crush them. I mean, they have money, but they don't have the money to sustain it without the sponsorship dollars.
That was going to be my question. So, like, is it an attainable thing to run a full season as an open car? Like, because open cars already you get paid less of the purse. So, like, and they're fighting to get paid obviously more money, give the teams more money, get more of the all the stuff. But is it possible for them to run 2 cars, as open cars? Like, is it possible to do it with the
front row? No chance, I would say.
Yeah.
Front row is kind of screwed if that ruling goes against them.
Yeah.
23-11 though,
because
I think
you have Michael Jordan, right? Because you have Michael Jordan's money.
You got these drivers. If Reddick stays, which I think you would, you have a good sponsor pitch to be like, here's an underdog story. You can be on this part of this team and help push us, and you're going to be mentioned as this underdog fighting to go race every week, and it's going to be a different story than a typical NASCAR sponsor. So I think that they have the chance to make it into a win, even if that happens. But front row, I think, would be toast.
Yeah, that's the hard part. And I read, so not talking about like the actual next year situation, but for what's happening right now, that 23-11 like needed another team to come on board with them to like have their support. Mm-hmm. And so I think, and Denny talked about this on his podcast, but like they're covering, 23-11 is covering all the legal fees for front row. Like in this, like they just needed
very
front
much
row
leading it.
Yeah, they just needed front row to be their support, and like we're fronting the money for the lawyer, the court fee, however all that works. They're fronting the money for that, and they just needed front row and Bob Jenkins to be there, basically for the moral support and another team supporting this whole ordeal. But I agree with you. Next year, I mean, Denny and Michael aren't going to fund front row next year.
Yeah, they're not buying front row. They're not like making it a 4-car team or whatever.
Yeah. Something that's the most interesting piece of this puzzle to me is we already know that Bob Jenkins and 23-11 have bought a charter from Stewart Haas.
Mm-hmm.
What in the world happens to this team that's not a team yet? And then they're like open. What happens there? That's the biggest confusing piece of this whole thing to me. Like, I don't know, like, they were like, I think it's like Gregson was going over to front row, Zane Smith, and someone else I can't remember. Michael McDowell's going to Spire. Sorry. Todd Gillen's going to stay there. But
yeah, they were expanding big time though. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't know what happens if they say, if this judge rules, hey, you signed this piece of paper 7 years ago, and like Bob signed it 7 years ago, and then obviously Denny signed it when he came in the sport in 2021 or whenever they came in. You signed this piece of paper that said if you don't sign this agreement, NASCAR can take your charters. As shitty as that wording is, if the judge is like, no, you're not getting these, you're going to have to give away your charters until this whole lawsuit is over with. Where do those charters go? Like what happens? That's the big piece of the puzzle that's missing for me.
I would imagine NASCAR would send them back onto the market if they can, because they would obviously, I mean, they make so much money when they sell a charter.
Yeah.
And I think that was the whole point, right? But like, I don't think that it definitely wouldn't go to front row. I mean, I don't know. I wonder if it then it would open the door for a new owner to come in and NASCAR would give it to him for cheaper, or if they just hold on to him and split the, like you're saying, just split the money less ways.
I don't know. I
don't know. I do think that the judge is going to rule for the teams though.
Yeah.
I just have a feeling that it's going to, at least next year, these teams are going to have their charters.
This is my other question about the whole deal. So however many teams are in NASCAR, there's like 15 or whatever, 16, whatever. Okay, so we'll say there's 16 teams. We'll just say that. So 14 teams signed this agreement, right, that you're going to run X, Y, and Z. This is how it's going to be for the next 7 years or whatever. 2 teams didn't. If they rule in the team's favor and they settle this case, what happens? Because because they can't just change it for just 2311 and front row. Or maybe they do because those are the two that fought for it. But then what? Do they get more money than every other race car on the track? Or is this a team thing and it changes the landscape of the whole deal? That's what
I think it would. I mean, I don't know if it would be immediate, right? I don't know because the teams didn't want to sign the charter agreement.
Yeah, exactly.
The ones who did sign it. But I don't know. I don't know if it could be immediate, but I think it would definitely open the door and the precedent for those teams to fight next time, right? I mean, they would obviously jump at that chance, which NASCAR would hate. But, you know, I think the sport does need to be more team focused and I guess more team friendly. So I'm kind of rooting for the teams, I think.
Totally. NASCAR, you know, 20 years ago, throughout the 90s and early 2000s, when NASCAR was the biggest sport in America, NASCAR has so much pull that you want to be a part of NASCAR. Like, you want to be able to race, like you want to do this, and that's when NASCAR can say, like, it's my way or the highway. Nowadays, it is not. NASCAR doesn't have that leg to stand on anymore, and NASCAR's in a good spot, don't get me wrong, but we all know it's not what it was, you know, 30 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
in its prime.
You're not selling 250,000 tickets at, you know, Texas anymore. Like, it's just, you know, it's not happening. Like, and it just, like I said, it's in a good place. I'm not shitting on that at all. I'm just saying, like, they don't have that leg to stand on they had 30 years ago to stand on. So now I do agree with the team side. Like, if you don't have the stars of the sport, like, people come to the racetrack and buy tickets because they want to see Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin and Ross whoever their favorite driver is. They want to come see see their driver, their star, you know, race. They're not coming because it's like, oh, the racetrack, or oh, I just, you know, because I love NASCAR or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, they're coming to cheer on their star. If you take out guys, your Chase Elliott's, Kyle Larson's, Denny Hamlin's, your, you know, big, huge guys in the sport. If this is all hypothetical, obviously. If they didn't show up for races, they just quit showing up, I guarantee you ticket sales are going to go down. And
by far.
That's what NASCAR has to realize. Yes, that's what NASCAR has to realize. So that's why now the teams have something to stand on. That is why.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if the teams banded up and started their own racing circuit and brought the stars with them, that's, you know, that's like kind of what you saw with like the XFL, right? I mean, they got some stars like back in the day and all this. Like, it becomes more viable if NASCAR continues to play the role of the bully. However, they also have such a hold with the racetracks and with everything else that it you know, is obviously more complex than that.
I mean, just think, like, so there's however many, I know we race a lot of racetracks twice, but there's, you know, we go to these places 38 weeks of the year. They're only owned by two companies, SMI and NASCAR. Like, I think that's weird. I've always thought that's weird. Like, and then they've put out every other racetrack that wasn't one of those things, you know. And then now they go by Bowman Gray. They have, you know, they've always had Wilkesboro, but like Wilkesboro and all this. But it's like, I don't know. It's like, it really is a monopoly. It just is a monopoly. It just is. You know what I mean? So, like, you have to, and I feel like somewhere in this agreement or contract or something, I feel like the tracks are also going to be involved in some way, shape, or form, because, like, that's also there's a big component of this. Like, Denny talks about how he just laid his books open, showed them NASCAR, this is how much money we make and spend and whatever, but they can't get SMI or NASCAR to open their books. And now if this goes into an act, if they don't settle this before it goes to like real court, when it goes to real court, they're going to have to open their books and show how much money they make, you know?
Yeah.
So
I mean, if it doesn't get settled, this is definitely going to start a multi-year process that could really shift the landscape of the sport.
Exactly. And then in that multi-year thing, what in the world happens to 2311? I just don't know if they can run those cars as open cars. It's just crazy. I don't know. I just don't know how the, like you're talking about, the money and the sponsors and all that. Like, even
I still think they could be just fine because of the Michael Jordan factor.
Yeah.
But, anyone else who joins them, like front row, they're going to be hung out to dry at the end of the day because there's just nothing that 2311 can do, even if they wanted to.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting.
It is. But we got racing coming up this weekend, championship fight. You said Blaney's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? You think he's going to win?
I think Blaney has the best chance to win. I really do. The way he runs at these type racetracks is just, I don't know. I really just see him being hard to beat. Caleb's a huge Blaney fan. You're a big Blaney fan too, right?
Yeah, I like Blaney. Ashlyn likes Blaney a lot. I kind of want Reddick to win, though, this year. I think it would be cool to see MJ get a ring, and I think he deserves it, too. I think Reddick deserves it.
Yeah, I'm a Reddick. Reddick is up there on my list of favorite drivers. I'm a big dirt track. All the guys that come from, like, dirt track racing, I always have, like, those are my guys, So, I do like Reddick a lot. My buddy Wade works for Reddick on the pit crew. So, like, it would be really cool to see Reddick win this thing. I have some Reddick koozies, and I have a 2311 hat over here too. So,
you ready for him?
Yeah. I like Reddick a lot. I just don't know. And if you look at Martinsville, dude, like, did you see how bad Reddick ran? Like,
Reddick, it was horrible. But also, you gotta think that they brought a car they did. No prep on.
Totally.
They were not focused on it.
And they're focused completely on Martinsville. And I totally get that. But, like, to run that bad, I was, like, I didn't expect him to go win that race. Don't get me wrong. But I didn't expect him to run 35th 2 laps down either. I was like, that.
I'm not even convinced he prepared for the race, though. He's probably been running Phoenix laps on a simulator all week.
100%.
I don't think he was in the mindset of we're going to go out here and even compete. I think he was, let's get on the track and then go get some beers and then get ready for Phoenix.
Yeah, I agree with you. So – I don't know. You have Logano, who's been able to prep for 2 weeks. Logano is Blaney's teammate. They're gonna. I'm telling you, they're gonna have the same car. It's just gonna be. It's gonna be the Penske show. I really do think. As much as I want
it's
Reddick
such an
win,
advantage.
Yeah, I just
such an advantage to have 2 guys. But Hendrick is gonna have 1 guy and 3 guys helping to support him. So
so
we'll see if that plays into it.
Reddick or Bowman. Byron, to me, though, there's something about his, like, clutch factor that's not there to me.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen it. I make a joke every year. It's been this way for the last couple years. I keep screwing these names up. Byron comes out at the beginning of the year, and he'll rattle off 3 or 4 wins in the first, like, 12 weeks. And then the summertime hits, and he runs like ass. And then he'll win like 1 more race towards the end of the year, make it to the playoffs because he had a bunch of wins and a bunch of points. But in these clutch moments, just like last year at Martinsville and just like this past weekend at Martinsville, he doesn't do it. And then last year, he still made it and he goes to Phoenix, but like he doesn't like have that thing. Yeah, he doesn't have that thing. So that's my only. I think they would have had a way better shot with Chase or Larson being that like
for sure
clutch guy to be in there to do it. You know what I mean? So
I think if Larson had made it, he'd be the favorite right now. By a mile.
He'd be the favorite, but then you'd also have to factor in how good Blaney is at Phoenix.
Yes,
so
for sure.
I just don't think. In my mind, it's going to be either Logano or Blaney. 1, 2, switch those out. Reddick third, Byron fourth.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's not what I want to happen because I would love to see, like I said, Reddick win, but I just think that it's going to be – I'll give you my final prediction. It's going to be Blaney, Logano, Reddick, Byron is how the Final Four will play out.
I don't know. I think one of the Penske guys is going to have a problem. I don't know which one.
I mean, that's the thing. You never one blown tire, one bad pit stop, anything, and your race is literally
you're
over.
Done. Yeah. So, and that is the thing. I think one of them finishes, maybe on the lead lap, but not well.
Yeah. Something else that's weird to me, outside of Phoenix, like race-wise, not being the greatest race ever, and it never really has been.
Yeah.
The championship race is one of the shortest races of the year.
Yeah.
Which it's only 312 miles, which is...
It is weird. Like, why wouldn't you make that the biggest test? Make that the Coke 600.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I wish the final race was like a sample more of what happens throughout the year with these 400 and 500 mile races.
Mm-hmm. I think it's time for them to start rotating the championship every year.
Oh yeah,
they need to. Because like, how do you have a track where you just know one guy's better than other guys?
Yeah,
like,
totally. I think you.
I mean, obviously that's going to happen, but the only way to mitigate that is to rotate it.
Yeah, and it all has to do obviously with weather, and apparently also because NASCAR, they want it to be a NASCAR owned track, yada yada yada, which NASCAR owns Homestead. But like, if you're going off
even
weather,
just swap it. Yeah, you could just switch between Phoenix and Homestead every year.
Yeah, I was going to throw Vegas in there as well, even though that's like SMI. But like, you have Vegas, Phoenix, Homestead. If there could be like a 3-year rotation of that, like it'd be pretty cool in my opinion.
That works great. Like,
all three. Like Phoenix is the least racy track of the group, but like Las Vegas is a great racetrack. Obviously, Vegas is like party town of the USA. Like I feel like that
could be a great market.
Yeah, I feel like that would just work, you know. But obviously the thing there is like with SMI and NASCAR on that one, from what I hear on podcasts and stuff. I don't know how all that works. That also is more lawsuits and money, I'm sure, that goes into all that.
Yeah,
but
no doubt.
Yeah, I just if it could be, I mean, I loved it at Homestead. And Homestead's just a great. I mean, we just saw it. Like Homestead's a great racetrack.
Yeah, no, it totally is.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm with you though. Like I just hate it being Phoenix every single year. And if they wanted to rotate, it'd be cool to see Homestead, Phoenix, or you throw in Vegas. I would love to see it at Kansas because Kansas is so freaking awesome. But
that would be crazy.
I guess it'd just be too cold there in November. You know, it would just be too cold, I guess. I don't know. But
yeah, you know, it's the same reason a lot of cities won't ever host a Super Bowl. But
yeah. So,
it just, I don't know. Yeah, some kind of rotation though needs to happen because you can't have this at the same exact track every year.
Yeah, I agree. And
expect,
and it sucks that it's like good. Phoenix, because Phoenix like isn't like Phoenix always sells out. Phoenix is a great city, and they say, I've never been to the racetrack, but like they say the facility and like the racetrack and like all the stuff there is to do,
it's super
like,
nice.
Yeah, top tier.
Yeah,
but the actual racing aspect of Phoenix has just really never been good.
No.
Like, I remember this was like, I don't know, 10-ish years ago. But if you remember a finish where it was Kevin Harvick and Carl Edwards, where they like beat and bang across the finish line at Phoenix. Like, Phoenix has had that's the last like cool finish I remember at Phoenix.
Yeah.
But even people talk about like that race, like, I don't even really remember the race. I don't think the race was that good. It came down to a late race caution, and there was a really cool finish. Like, just the actual racing at Phoenix, no matter what car they've been in or what era of NASCAR it was, it's never just been like, oh my God, Phoenix, you know? Like, it doesn't have those moments like Homestead and Vegas and Kansas and Atlanta and all these places like that, you know? So,
no, it really doesn't. But hopefully, hopefully that'll happen. I think we're trending towards that.
Yeah.
At least switching it up for a year and see what happens.
They say that the city is like putting together a plan to like almost like bid for it like they do, Super Bowls and stuff, to bring the race back to Homestead in 20.
I think they should.
Yeah, I think it's 2026. I think next year Phoenix is for sure happening, but
yeah, they put the schedule out. Yeah,
is what they're talking about. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think it would just be really beneficial to have it rotating every year.
Yeah, but we'll see. I'm hoping for a good race. Hopefully some exciting, at least an exciting finish.
Yeah, I'm just hoping some crazy shit happens. It's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't involve sandbagging. Is what I hope.
Yeah, no, that's unfortunately the most likely scenario.
Yeah.
But no, I think it'll be good. But yeah, I mean, Blaney, I think Reddick's gonna win. I just think he's gonna pull it off somehow.
It'd be cool.
Hopefully he doesn't. Yeah,
it'd be really cool, really interesting for NASCAR to give Denny and Michael the trophy in the middle of a lawsuit.
Wouldn't it?
That'd be ironic.
That would be wild. That would be wild. It would be crazy for Michael Jordan to be a NASCAR champion too. I think that'd be cool.
It really would be.
Do you think it would sting Denny if that's his first ring as the owner?
I don't know.
I think it would eat at him a little bit, right? I mean, he's like fought so long to try to win it as a driver, but I think he would be happy too.
Yeah. I think, if Denny was in the Final Four and Reddick won the championship, I think it really would bother him and he would like have a hard time enjoying it. But because he's already out, I think this coming week he's like full owner mode. In my opinion.
I'm sure he is. Yeah, he's probably not prepping much as a driver at all.
Yeah. So,
and I mean, he's in full lawsuit mode, so he's already in owner mode in that sense.
Yeah. So I think that's because you saw like how dejected he was at Homestead, like even though that was Reddit, like his team made it, but he's like super.
He knew that was a shot though. Yeah. I mean, he was right there.
It also kind of made me laugh, like. Which I kind of love this, but like literally every guy interviewed in that race after Homestead was just depressed. Like everybody kind of had their head down, like they were just kind of talking like this and like, like just not really looking at the camera. And that shows you how much like it means to have that win to get
that's
Final
what you
Four.
want to see, right?
That's
you
what you want to see. Yeah. So, and I think I heard Denny, maybe they talked about it on his podcast or he posted it or something, but he was talking about how he never really went into owner mode in that situation. Like it was all driver, like just, all driver. So it was, I'm trying to think, has there ever been a team that was owned by a driver that won a championship while the driver was racing also?
I don't think so. Cause I mean, Stuart Haas definitely never won a title.
But Stewart, when Harvick won, Stewart was racing.
Was he still?
Yeah.
He was active. Yeah. At least he was racing for his team.
He was racing for his team. That's correct.
But
true, he was racing for his team. So
I bet it happened at some point, like a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. I just can't remember. I remember back when like Earnhardt was still racing and DEI was like kicking ass, and they were like really, really strong. But he never got to be around, which they never won a championship, but they never got to, he wasn't racing for a title. He never raced for a title while his team was racing for a title. You know what I mean? Like that never happened. And in my opinion, if Dale Earnhart would have stayed alive, DEI would have been like Hendrick Motorsports nowadays.
Yeah.
Like they would have been.
They'd be huge.
Yeah, they would have been the thing. So I think that would have happened, after at some point. But yeah, I'm just trying to think. I don't know. I can't think. Other than that, like you said, he was racing for his team. So I don't know if there is a.
Yeah, and I mean, even if Keselowski was in the Final Four, he'd be racing, against Buescher or whatever. They still are on the same team at least. So it's.
I think.
No, it's a very unique situation.
Yeah. I think there was a. There used to be a rule, and I'd have to get fact checked on this, but I think there was a rule for after Dale died, somewhere in the last like 20 years, up until recently, obviously up until about when Denny came in and did this. If you owned a team as a driver, you had to race for that team.
I think you're right.
I think that was a rule, and then that got changed at some point in like 5-6 years ago. But there's a good period where that was the
I think
case.
they knew they needed to if they wanted MJ to come in, and they wanted that for sure.
Yeah. So that might have been the year it got changed, like when 2020 or 21, whenever I think they came in 21, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so, because I think even when Stuart Haas got founded, like, they needed Tony on their team if you wanted to own it.
Yeah, and Tony went. He did it.
Yeah. So I think you're right.
Yeah, and I think that was around like 2000, and I think he started that in like 8 or 9, and then he won a title for himself in 11, which was that title we were talking about, and then Harvick won in like I want to say 14 was the year he won.
Yeah.
Harvick won in the first year of like stage racing and this elimination style thing. Like I think he was the first one to do it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I think that rule probably did shift because of the MJ effect.
Yeah.
So, but it is kind of crazy. Like, I don't know. We can talk about this in off season too, but not wanting to race for your own team is a little wild to me.
Well, Denny talked about like, when he felt that his team was, I don't think it's out of the question that Denny Hamlin races for his own team one day. I really
no,
don't.
I don't think so either. I think he will.
But he wanted
especially
it
if they
to
keep their
be
charters.
Yeah, he wanted it to be up to the level of how it is when he gets into that 11 car, like that prepared, that much money, that much sponsorship, all the things. So
for sure, and it's hard to blame him for that.
Yeah. So I think because like you said, that window's closing for him, and he wants to win a championship for Joe Gibbs. I mean, he does, and FedEx, and now that FedEx is they even made another announcement. They're coming out even more next year, like not sponsoring him as much. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. My hot take or bold prediction is Denny Hamlin will race for his own team one day. I guess it'll all just depend on if they have charters and how all this goes. But
if they have a team,
yeah, I think he will one day.
I think so too. Even if he's like 50 when he does.
Yeah, I agree.
But we'll see. I mean, I'm excited for the race this weekend.
Yeah, dude. Me too.
We'll have a new champion next time. So.
Yep. Me and Lindsay will be in the mountains, so we're gonna watch it. We'll be watching it up there, probably at a bar or something somewhere. So.
There you go. Yeah. I'll be at the race. So.
We'll you're going.
Yeah, me and Ash are going down to Phoenix for the ASU game, and it's just the same weekend. So.
Dude, let's go.
We'll be there.
That's gonna be sick.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
Y'all have passes, like going to be down in the pits, or y'all?
Yeah, we'll be down in the pits. So, and I'm taking my dad, which will be fun because he's never been down there in the pits, so it'll be sick.
Dude, that's going to be super sick.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about that next week. You have to
no doubt.
Let me know how that goes.
No doubt. But yeah, you want to take us out?
Yeah, y'all can find us on social media. I'm Dawson Edwards Music across the board. Raise Rowdy Racing. I think it's RZD Racing on Twitter. Follow Raise Rowdy Racing everywhere else. Raise Rowdy. Raise Rowdy Matt Burrell. I think his Instagram's still just Matt Burrell. Raise Rowdy Nikki T. So. You can give a shout out to all your socials.
Yeah, I mean, Ike Everard on Instagram. Follow Ashlyn 1624 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Thank y'all for listening. We'll be back next week one day. Probably not Monday because we'll all be coming back into town. But yeah, we'll see y'all next week. Thank y'all for listening.